Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and a lot of you know about superstar Tyler Perry, the brilliant man who has transported Hollywood down to Atlanta, created a lot of jobs, done a lot of good things for the world, created a lot of movies that have done extremely well. And the thing is, though, that sometimes in that climb to the top, there's some messes underneath that don't always get the exposure they deserve. And I'm really happy to have the chance today to speak with a woman by the name of Kim Kearney. Kim Kearney, her stage name is Poprah, and she's on the line with us, and she's going to talk a little bit about a lawsuit that she filed, that Tyler filed and she filed it. She's going to explain everything, but it's a lawsuit over the trademark of the name What Would Jesus Do? And, Tyler has his side of the story, which the media has covered, which I think should certainly be heard. But there's also another side of the story, and I believe that all sides of the story should be told so that people can make their own decision and come to their own conclusion. So the first thing I want to do is I want to welcome Poprah to the show. How you doing today?
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for having me.
I'm glad you're here. Now, I hesitated a little bit when I said Poprah because I didn't know if I should call you Poprah, Kim, Miss Kearney. What makes you more comfortable right now in this conversation as far as how I should call you?
Poprah's fine.
Okay, I'm going to call you Poprah. Okay, and so since we're talking about that, I want to start with that. Where did that name come from?
Actually, I don't know if you're familiar with the television show that I was on back in '08 and then '09 called I Want to Work for Diddy. And, prior to going on that show, I always thought of myself as a hybrid between Oprah and Puffy. So I kind of, named myself Poprah as homage to people that I admire and, I looked up to and I was inspired by. And then when I got on that television show and they said, what is your brand? Who are you? Immediately, that was just what came to mind, that I'm Poprah. I think I have a little bit of the swag and the go-getter and the hustle mentality of Diddy, but at the same time, that humanitarian, philanthropic side, that, realness that you find in Oprah. And so that hybrid is kind of who I aspire to be.
Okay. Then I will call you Poprah, or I might say Miss Poprah every now and then, just to be respectful. I'm from the South. So, I want to ask you, I want to dive right into what led up to this legal confrontation over the trademark. You, from what I've read, you had an idea for a show called What Would Jesus Do? And you took the idea, you were looking for someone to finance the project, and you had an interaction with Tyler. I don't know if you guys had a formal meeting or not, but he was exposed to the idea according to the suit and according to what you said. And a few months later, he applied for the same trademark. Can you tell me how that all went down?
Okay, so I'll try to be as brief as possible, but it's kind of an extensive story. But basically, as a result of me being on the Diddy show and being raised in the church, always, since I was a teenager, considering myself a Christian, I really felt convicted after I did the Diddy show. Even though I did 2 seasons, I was the only one they brought back for season 2 as kind of a mole or spy for Diddy on the second season. I didn't feel like that my behavior was always indicative of what a Christian would do, even in that scenario, even in that competition. I was always kind of like battling my, the right thing and what was good TV and, battling all the competition at the same time and just trying to find that balance. And so after I did that show, I just felt very convicted. I felt like God wasn't happy with me. I felt very disappointed in myself and ashamed. And, so I started being very prayerful and just doing some soul searching. And as being a creative person, being somebody in entertainment for so long, my platform, if you will, has always been music or television or something like that. And God inspired me to create this reality series called What Would Jesus Do? Where, without going into the details of the show, in a nutshell, the premise was to kind of apply stories in the Bible to current day life and position people so that the show begs the question, what would Jesus do if he was in these circumstances, which is what we deal with every day. So I was very excited, like, okay, God, I've always thought as a child, my mission was to speak to the masses, and I'm not a minister, and I don't know how you want me to do it. If this is the platform that you want me to use, God, I'm going to go for it. So I was in Atlanta producing another show, a pilot for a show that was going to feature Left Eye's old group, before she passed. Rest in peace, Left Eye.
Wait, Left Eye's old group?
Yeah, she had a group before she passed, of course, called Black.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Right, it was a young girl group, kind of similar to TLC. And so Candy Burris, from who's now in Real Housewives of Atlanta, and from Escape, and T-Boz, they were all involved in this particular project. And
T-Boz is my cousin, by the way.
Really? I love T-Boz.
Yeah, my second cousin. Our grandfathers are brothers. I just thought I'd throw it out there. But please continue.
I've only met her once or twice, but I love her. She's beautiful.
You've met her more than I have, but I just love claiming her. But please,
I get it. So yes, I was in Atlanta, and they because I've been producing since 1989. I've been producing TV. I've had my own talk show on UPN. I've had shows that I produced and directed on CW. So I've been doing this for a long, long time. And so even before the Diddy show, people didn't know, you know what I mean? I had pretty darn good income in television and some other endeavors. But anyway, so I said, okay, I'm going to do this show. And while I was working on their reality show pilot, two of the people who were producers on that show worked for Tyler at one time. One had been his publicist. The other one was his cousin, who had produced a lot of projects with him. And so, we developed a relationship as a result of that show. And, I told him I had other ideas and, projects that I would like to do. And they said, oh, well, we used to work with Tyler. And I was like, wow, really? Oh, my God, that would be amazing if I could present this show to him. Because at the time when I first started shopping the show to some major networks, I would always get the response, oh, Poprah, that's an amazing idea. That's a great idea. That's a great, show. But could you just take Jesus' name out? And I would say, no, that's not an option. I'm not selling out. This is Jesus' show. You didn't take Diddy's name out of I Want to Work for Diddy. You don't take Oprah's name off of her show. Why does Jesus' name have to come off his show? So that was one of the obstacles that I continued to face in this process, was that people had an issue with the name Jesus. And I was like, no, first of all, the power is in the name Jesus. So I dare not take that chance that I dishonor God by basically selling out and letting them change the name of the show. That's how important the name was to me. And I knew that the name of Jesus was important to this program. So anyway, they gave me an email address. They thought that I told them about the idea. They thought the idea was great. He might be interested. I thought, wow, I admire him. I look up to him. He's powerful. He's smart. He says he's a Christian. As far as I know, this would be a person who can understand the concept of the show, appreciate the value of the show, and understand the premise, and not have the courage to support me in it. So that's what I did. And so they gave me an email address to contact a lady named Karen Wheeler, who at the time was still working with Tyler, from what they told me. And they put me in touch with her via email. So I sent her an email and said, hey, I was referred by these people over here. They tell me that I should, contact you to submit this show to him. Here's the treatment for my show. I had already registered with the Writers Guild, as a matter of fact. And so I submitted the show. I got an email back. Miss Kearney, we, hi or whatever, Tyler has your treatment. That's the thing that stood out to me, was Tyler has your treatment. And I was like, wow, oh my God, there's no way he's not going to want to do this. I already know he's going to want to do this. I was so excited. And then I didn't hear anything for like 2 weeks. So then I said, okay, protocol is, be patient, but then still follow up. I figured, maybe they hadn't gotten around to making a decision, because sometimes there's a hierarchy. So I went on and I followed up, sent her another email, just following up, just wanted to know if you guys were interested, just wanted to update. And I get another email, TPS will get back to you if they're interested, but, have you considered this option, that option, and just kind of, recommended some other things that would be options if it didn't pan out. And then after that, I never heard anything else from this lady. So I went, okay, that's the industry. Not everybody likes your idea. Keep it going. with God before you, who can be against you? Okay, so just keep going. So I thought it was over with. Tyler wasn't interested. His company wasn't interested. Next project. Even though I'm still shopping that project to networks, but just as far as he's concerned. So then I have, multiple trademarks, and I'm always monitoring them because there's always in these different stages of the process between the publishing for opposition, the allowance stage, and the time you got to submit your specimens, and all these different stages. So I always keep monitoring my trademarks. So I happen to be checking on my trademarks, and I pull up the search for what would Jesus do, and I'm aware of what applications have been in before, which ones have been abandoned, which ones are dead, and what are new applications. And so I see this new application, and obviously didn't know who it was until I clicked on the link. When I click on the link, I see an application for what would Jesus do. I look at the applicant, and it was an attorney representing Tyler Perry Studios. And I was just floored. This was like 4 months after I had put in my own application. I just said, first of all, I just cried. I have to admit, I just cried because I felt so betrayed. I couldn't believe that I went to this man. I submitted my work in good faith. He's always talking about how he, came from humble beginnings and he was molested, which I was too. And I grew up without parents. My parents died when I was 16, 17, 4 months apart. So I just thought this man could relate to someone struggling to come up in the industry. So to have that shock that he would do something like this, or his company would do something like this, was devastating to me, because it would be different if I had not had any interaction with him and I said, it's just business. They don't know me. I don't know them. It just happens. But knowing that I had submitted my work and had confirmation more than once that he had it in his hand, for this to happen, and this also being a Christian person, was just devastating to me. So I noticed that the trademark office, I'm sorry, I cry about it every time I talk because it's like reliving it all over again and it still hurts. But, it was just devastating. And so I saw that the trademark office denied his application because my application preceded his. And so they turned him down, and then his attorney's response, because all this is public record, his attorney's response was, well, just put our application to the side. Basically, we'll put the application on hold in lieu of what happens with the preceding application, which was mine. So I'm like, okay, they're thinking, because I don't have an attorney doing this, but I've never had to use an attorney to get a trademark before, because I can understand the process. And I've done it myself, and I'm fairly business savvy, I think. And so I guess they thought that I wasn't going to follow through. A lot of people apply for trademarks, and then when they get the stuff back from the trademark office with the rejection letters and the challenges or whatever, they give up and they abandon the application. So that's a large percentage of people. So since I didn't do that, I guess, that's what they expected. But I didn't do that. I followed through. I got my trademark. It was registered. So I'm thinking, okay, even though that hurt, like, that he did this, I won. I got my trademark. It's mine. I'm using it. There's nothing he could do. Whew. Then I happen to be checking on my trademarks, and I see that What Would Jesus Do's trademark, my registration was canceled. And I said, well, cancel? How can it possibly be canceled? Like, I've had registrations before. It hasn't been 6 years, 5 years time for your renewal. Like, how could it be canceled? What did I do? Like, what happened? I thought it was a glitch, a technicality or something, a technical issue. So immediately started to look into the documents to see why it was canceled. And I see that Tyler Perry had filed this cancellation proceeding to have my mark canceled. And it was automatically canceled by default because I did not reply. Now, that was the first time they tried to cancel it, or they got it canceled. And I didn't reply because I wasn't aware there was a suit. I knew that there was an application. His application was denied, but I never knew that then he came behind me and tried to have mine canceled. I thought, okay, I have it. Why would you do this? So I found out that the reason it was canceled was because I didn't reply. because I was never served. I never received notice. I moved from Atlanta to LA, and I provided an updated address within the USPTO system, the United States Trademark Patent and Trademark Office system. But Tyler's attorney didn't use that address. He used the previous address from when I originally did the application. Well, the law says, which, that's why I know trademark so well now, because I've been researching like I'm in law school for like 5 years over this thing, because I didn't have any help. So I had to just do my homework. And I found a law that said that within the trademark system, that in a civil law, that if the person that you are suing is not notified and the mail is returned, you're supposed to alert the trademark trial and appeal board, so they're aware that the person didn't respond because they didn't know. Well, Tyler's attorney didn't do that. They tried again to do things dirty and didn't notify the board that I was never served. So basically my mark was canceled because I didn't even know. So I sent documentation to the trademark board and my mark was reinstated. So I fought them the first time, I won, and I got my trademark back from them based on the fact that I was never even notified of the cancellation proceeding. I would think by now it's over with, it's done. Like, leave me alone. Please just leave me alone. Do you know they came back and they filed again? They filed another cancellation proceeding after my mark was reinstated. And this time I was notified at the proper address. However, because I didn't have representation, I didn't know that you're required to reply to the admissions within 30 days. And I really want people to understand what admissions are. Admissions are basically where the other attorney poses questions to you, but they're written as statements and they're written in the negative. Like, you never planned to do a TV show called What Would Jesus Do, did you? You're not using this trademark, are you? You've abandoned this mark, didn't you? Like, everything is negative and saying, but it's true, isn't it? And so imagine if someone said, you're not a good parent, are you? You don't love God, do you? You don't, you don't go to work every day, do you? And if they didn't tell you that you had to respond by a certain deadline, which they didn't tell me, it's something only an attorney would have known because it's an unwritten rule. It actually wasn't listed in the schedule with the Trial and Trademark Board's schedule of the proceedings, like when discovery is, when testimony period is. It's not listed there, which that's what I was following. I thought, okay, they're providing me a schedule. Every time it says defendant, that's when I do something. Bad assumption on my part, because the unwritten rule was automatically when they sent me those admissions, I was supposed to reply in 30 days. Mind you, because none of this is done in a court, like a courtroom like you see on TV. All this is done by email and phone calls between us and the trademark board, and everything's in writing. All the questions had to be retyped. We're talking about 20, 30 pages of questions that, me not having a lawyer, I had to retype myself and then respond to those questions. Well, I didn't know that they were doing 30 days. So all those answers are deemed admitted. It means that since I didn't reply to the statement, you never planned to do this show, did you? That means it automatically was considered true that I said that out. Like, it's like if I said that out of my own mouth. So that's how he won this case, because my admissions were deemed admitted because I didn't reply. And it wasn't like I didn't try to find an attorney. Immediately when I got served, I started calling every attorney. I called a bunch of attorneys in Atlanta, LA, Beverly Hills. I called attorneys I had seen on TV. Nobody would help me. People were like, oh, you got a lawsuit with Tyler Perry? I don't know if I want to touch that one. They were politically not interested, or, I hate to say it, but people of other nationalities who are not as, I guess, big fans of Tyler Perry or just indifferent, they were willing to help me, but then they wanted a $50,000 retainer. I didn't have a $1,000 retainer, and especially on top of the fact that they said it might not be enough that would get them started. So they felt that Tyler might drag this on and I would run out of money and they wouldn't get paid. And there was no necessarily commission or award to be received. So there was no contingency type interest on their part. They just wanted their money, and I couldn't afford that. So I had to just keep fighting all alone, and I missed that one deadline to submit my admissions, and that's what screwed me up. So when I finally did submit my answers, of course I'm working on this show. I've met with this network. I've met with that network. Here's my evidence. Here's my proof and my email showing that Tyler had my treatment. All these things, testimony, evidence, and things that I was trying to submit, these things were then rejected also because there's a certain format. Like I included exhibits and evidence and emails and things, and they were also rejected. One, the admissions were deemed admitted, and number two, because I attached them to my discovery when I submitted them, and they're supposed to be filed separately. All these things are technical and legalities of only things that an attorney would know. And that's where I was screwed. Trusting Tyler Perry not to do something like this, and then not being in a financial position to fight a giant in a very serious legal battle. And it's in God's hands now. But I have to tell you, I mean, I've had nights when it made me question my faith. It made me wonder if, you know, God, like, if you love me and I know I'm doing this show for you and my heart is pure, how could you let Tyler Perry do this? I mean, if he's a Christian, why would he do this? You know, I just made me question everything. It made me question why I was alive. Like, I thought this was my mission, Lord. Why would you leave me? I mean, I had nights when I thought about suicide. I just wanted to go to sleep and not wake up because I couldn't tell industry people, you know, of course, you know, you're a Cancer if you talk about something of this nature and they're worried about their own career. Lots of people have contacted me secretly, privately, in messages and texts and emails or whatever. Not yet. Emails, mostly text and private messages on Twitter and Facebook. But they're not publicly going to show their support. They're glad I'm fighting back. I've had so many comments and emails from people who say that they have had experiences like this with Tyler themselves, and they were proud of me for having the courage, but they had let their case go or didn't pursue a case because they didn't feel like they could handle it. You know, so I'm like, God, I guess you gave me this battle because he says he won't give you more than you can handle. But I'm still here and I'm still fighting. And I want to mention this last thing, that because I was trying to do the right thing all through this case, I even offered for Tyler to share my trademark for free. I actually, in writing to his attorney, which I also shared with the trademark office, said, you know what, I'm thinking about that story. I believe it was King Solomon, where two ladies were fighting over a baby. And the king said, you know, well, I'll cut the baby in half. And the mother, who truly loved the child, said, well, you know what, rather than injure the child that I love, I'll share it. So for me, I said, Lord, I'm going to take that position in this rather than have your name dragged in a legal battle publicly, rather than, you know, be selfish because this show is not about money. I have lots of money-making ideas. But for me, this was the time that I was just being truthful, you know, coming from the heart and just saying, Lord, this is for you. I don't care if I make a single dime off this show. You put me here. You gave me a mission. You said I'm supposed to use my experiences in life and speak for you. And if this is the show that's my platform to get the word of God to the young people who watching reality show every night and watching Basketball Wives and Love and Hip Hop and all these shows that are leading them in the wrong direction, and this show can bring them to you, I don't care about a dime. I'll do it. So I wrote to Tyler Perry's attorney and I said, you can share it with me. You know, there's a thing called a restricted use, and you can use it for whatever you want to use it for. Just please let it go so I can use it for God's work on my show. And do you know that they turned that down? They pretended that they were interested. His attorney said, we'll consider that in writing. We'll consider that. And then the next thing I know, they filed another document to continue the case. Never said no, just never responded and moved forward with the case, which of course is equivalent to a no. So I'm thinking, wow, how can this same man that we see on TV laying hands on TD Jakes and always bragging about being the good Samaritan, which you're supposed to give in secret anyway, but that's a whole nother, you know, story. But how can this man that has this image of being godlike and a mentor and an inspiration to young people and being all about God, not even, and who has hundreds of millions of dollars? Think about it. Most people wouldn't give something that they legally own to someone who already is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. But I didn't even care. I said, you can share this with me and I don't want a dime. I will do it for free.
Let me ask you this. Now, you mentioned that there were a lot of private conversations where people were saying things to you behind closed doors, but they weren't willing to talk about these things in public. And we do know that there have been some suits filed against Tyler in the past. If I'm not mistaken, someone sued over Diary of a Mad Black Woman. But but from what I understand, has he lost any of these suits?
I believe, which of course I haven't researched every suit against him, but I will say where there's smoke, there's fire. I have not heard of anyone else in the entertainment industry, and I've been in it for well over 25 years, who has been sued more for this type of thing of taking people's work and taking their ideas than him. And I dare say that, considering that I think I'm a fairly strong person, and you see how this has broken me, and I'm Team Jesus, imagine how humiliating or how helpless other people must feel who have been through this. So I dare say there's a lot of people, and I know this for a fact, people who said that he took their songs, they were in his bands, they created original songs for his plays, he took their plays. Other people who he took their songs. Other people have told me that they submitted their plays to him, and then they go and look at his shows, and their characters are in his shows, or their titles are his shows are named after titles in their work, and they just let it go because they didn't want to be blackballed. And yes, some of these cases, from what I've seen, have been won or settled out of court. So I think it comes down to each individual case and argue in a position to either fight him, even if you're right, or whether or not you even challenge him. Or if he does maybe think you have a case, then he settles out of court, so there's no win because the case gets dismissed. So, just because, not everybody's winning. And I know, people can be litigious, and there are people who will just, claim to something that they don't have. But there's been a plethora of cases like this against this one man. Like right now, there's a lawsuit for the have and have nots. Some lady is suing him and Oprah over that show. It's almost like every project he puts out, someone else says, that's mine. And I believe that this can happen this often and there be no truth in it. Because I know my situation. I lived it, and it's been hell, like I said, almost 6 years.
Well, let me ask you this. It seems to me, and I admit that this is taking me aback in that, I'd always had the impression that if someone owns a trademark on something that you want to use, you have to compensate them at least, right? Or for the use of the trademark, and or even partner with them, or whatever the case may be. And so, your story, I'm glad you fleshed it out. I'm glad you spent time describing the details, because I think people should consider that. People shouldn't just allow their love for Tyler Perry to cause them to not hear other points of view. And so what I want to ask you is this: based on your experience, is there anything where you look back and you say, okay, if I had done this differently, things would have turned out different? I mean, is there any advice you can even offer, or do you feel that you kind of did everything you could have done, and the power just kind of overwhelmed anything that you could have presented on your own behalf?
Absolutely. My biggest mistake was, even though I didn't have legal help, if I had known about replying to those admissions within 30 days, he could not. I made 2 errors. Let me correct that. My first 3 errors. My first error was trusting that because this man claimed to be a Christian, he wouldn't steal my work. Someone that powerful, that successful, would have enough that he didn't need to take from the little person. That was my first mistake, trusting the wrong person. My second mistake was that I did not respond to those admissions in time within the 30 days. And so he automatically was given my trademark and my evidence and my responses, which were valid, because they submitted no evidence. They depended on what's called a notice of reliance. We're going to rely on the fact that she didn't answer those questions. And when she didn't answer those questions, everything we said about her not using her trademark is deemed true. That's good enough. And so my responses were never considered, because that hurts me every time I see somebody say, oh, she just, she didn't have any evidence. They proved that she didn't use her trademark. No, they didn't. They used a technicality that I was not aware of because I wasn't represented. And the crazy thing is, if this had been a criminal case, I would have automatically given a public defender.
Interesting.
In a civil case, even though you could be an entrepreneur, you could build your company for years and years, you could build your brand, you could have your creative ideas. And guess what? One technicality that you're not aware of, even though the board says it's set up for people to be pro se and represent themselves, you're not given the tools to represent yourselves. If you call customer service and say, well, what am I supposed to do? They'll say, I can't give you any legal advice. Check the manual. The manual is like 1,000 pages. And they're written in legal jargon. So the lay person who may be struggling and fighting and bleeding and sweating to build their own company can be challenged by any large entity. You could be an app creator, and Apple come and say, I want that. And because you don't have the legal support or means or the money to fight them, they can just take it because you screw up in just not understanding the process. Not that it's not valid, not that you don't have a valid defense or a valid evidence to support your position or your case. If you don't do it right by the technical rules, you can be screwed out of your whole brand, your whole company. Doesn't matter. And that's what's painful to me, because this is not just about my ego, me, Poprah, Kim, or whatever, and me just wanting to do a TV show. I represent the underdogs that have been ripped off by major people in all industries, computer technology, in the entertainment industry, people who have created mechanical devices, who've done engineering type inventions, what have you. I represent the little guy who's out there battling in this land of opportunity we live in, who's still in a bad position because of the way the trademark system is set up. And that was very unfortunate and very unfair. And I want people, if they can learn from my plight and my experience in this, learn, number one, trademarks are not the same things as a copyright. A copyright is not a Writers Guild registration. A Writers Guild registration has nothing to do with your business license. People think they own the name of their products, their brands, their shows, their businesses because they have a business license or they're LLC, or because, they have, people think if you copyright, people, dogging me in the media saying she should have copywrote it. She should have mailed it to herself. I understand that they think they know what they're talking about, but they don't. They don't. A copyright has nothing to do with the title of a show. A copyright cannot protect the title of a show. If I had a script, it would protect the script of the show, but the title is up for grabs. That's why you see even Jay-Z and Beyonce fighting a lady over the name Blue Ivy. They didn't win because the lady had her store for 20 years. Trademarks have intellectual property is a major thing in any business, and it's your brand, it's your business, and it has monetary value. So I want people to do their research and learn about these things and know the differences between these legal protections so that they are not in the position that I am. My third mistake that I would say I made was that maybe I didn't try harder. I mean, I don't know what else I could have done, but just, when God gives you a mission, you can't give up. And I have to say this about, and that's why I can't give up now, because I don't want to fail God. When I feel that he tells me it's over, let it go, don't appeal, don't do anything, that's when I'm going to back off. Until then, I'm going to keep fighting. Because I have to say this, people are like, oh, girl, it's just a name, get over it. No, it's not just a name. Number one is Jesus' name. Number two, that's the mission God gave me. And number three, God doesn't want passive Christians. You can't say that you're about God, but you can't rep him in times of trouble or when things get tough. But yet, as soon as your mama's sick or you lost your job or you're broke, now it's, oh, Jesus, oh, God, help me. But when he asks us to stand against things that may not be popular, we don't have anything to say or we go and hide. I can't do that, because you're going to get in that box one day when you take your last breath by yourself, and you're going to have to answer to God for how you live. So I'm not here for Hollywood. I'm not here for politics. I don't care. Tyler Perry, I serve God, not Tyler Perry, none of these other big celebrities. God don't count Grammys, Oscars, Golden Globes. Tyler can't take his check, his bank account with him in that box. They can put the money in, but it will have no value to him. And he's got to answer to God. And so I feel like when God gives you a mission, you can't sit on the sidelines and go, well, I prayed about it, I hope it worked out. God gave you good sense, and if he gave you good health and some decent, intelligence, you have no rights to not do his mission and not to move forward. When God told Moses go get the Israelites out of Egypt, he didn't just say, okay, well, Lord, I told Pharaoh and he said no, so good luck. Oh, he didn't. He went back again,
Right.
again and again and said, God, the Lord God said, let my people go. And I'm saying the same thing to Tyler Perry. Let my trademark go. Because even though I may not have the manpower or the political power or the financial power to fight you, you got to deal with a higher power that's beyond anything you, Oprah, Diddy, Jay-Z, all these people. They have no power. Look at the God that we talking about who created everything.
Right.
You. And you cannot, it says in the Bible, what it good is if the man gain the world if he lose his soul. So all I can do is forgive him. I
Right.
pray for him that one day, I just want to say this last thing. I forgive him for what he did. I forgive him for being that egotistical to not say, you know what, this ain't the right thing. Let me do the right thing. I forgive him for staying and professing to be a Christian, but then, in my opinion, not doing what's Christ-like. I forgive him for having the clout and the power and not use it in the right way, though he's always bragging about all the people he's helped. But how many people are you destroying in the process? Because you almost
Right. Okay. One thing I want to do though, I want to make sure that I don't believe in giving people their opinions, right, and telling them what to think. And I think that what we also have to consider too is that you're giving your opinion of Tyler Perry. You're talking about his relationship with God, but but he can also come back and say, two things. One, he could say, "Look, I won in court," and the law says that this is mine. I can do what I want with it. And then also, I want to lean on something that I've read an article on EUR Web where they were critical of the emotion, and I understand the emotion, right? You're a Christ-driven woman. You remind me of my mother. My father's a pastor, by the way. My mother might as well be. And when I hear you referencing the Bible, referencing God, I understand that completely, and I respect that. But the thing is, in the court of law or in the court of public opinion, that doesn't always work, right? People say, well, okay, well, where's the evidence? We hear how she feels about Tyler, but what is the evidence here? And what I'm curious about is, how do you how do you lay out, what sort of proof are you able to lay out to kind of say, in order to deal with any critics that might say, for example, I watched a video you did that was really interesting where you talked about it, but you kind of, your emotions flowed, you cried a lot in the video, and the people in EUR Web flat out said this is not fair. She's saying I am the crying female victim of this horrible man who did this terrible thing to me. They even said, and I'm just being real here, I'm just being honest so we can hear all the sides. And I think they wrote that it's not fair to women because it's showing that it's making women look like we don't have the emotional control necessary to operate in the boardroom, right? And I'm just repeating what's said here because you know me, I want to lay out all the different sides. What do you have to say in response to that? In response to people that say, look, she's not laying on facts. She's campaigning. She's trying to destroy Tyler's name. She's trying to rally support for herself. Stuff like that. What is your response to that kind of criticism?
Okay, so I read that one article that you're referencing, and I thought it was laughable. I thought it was absurd. I thought it was insulting. I thought it was unsympathetic, and I thought it was baseless. Why? Because number one, and actually if you read the responses to that article, most of the people agree with me. I thought it was very a foul, under the belt approach to this whole thing. Number one, I had facts. I had evidence. I had a deal with the Word Network to get this show on the air. It would have aired Friday nights every week. They gave me 2 seasons. The Word Network reaches 80 million households. They're a nonprofit station that airs a lot of ministers' sermons weekly and religious programming, gospel concerts, what have you. I presented the show to them. They said they liked it, and they would even give me the airtime. However, because they're nonprofit, they don't have the funding to fund the production of the show. So I had to then go out and get investors to provide the funding so I could produce the show based on the fact that I did have a place to air it every Friday, like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And they were going to air it several times a day, as a matter of fact. So when I would go and meet with people and say, hey, I have a deal for this show, I need investors, but I have to be honest with you because I am an honest person. I want to disclose to you that I'm in this battle, though, over the name with Tyler Perry. People's response would be like, okay, I don't want to touch that because the project is legally entangled. So basically, for everything that he was saying I wasn't doing with the show, he was blocking me. And I'll use a reference that a lot of men can relate to since I'm weak, right? When women tell you're a horrible father, you're a deadbeat dad, you never see your kids, but yet you've been reaching out trying to see your kids, but she won't let you. You've been trying to reach out to do what the court says to pay your child support or work out some amicable agreement, but they won't let you. How do you feel? Is it not devastating? Do you cry sometimes at night because you can't believe that you're caught between a rock and a hard place because someone's saying you're not doing what you're supposed to do, but you're doing everything you can to do what you're supposed to do, but at the same time, your hands are tied because you're not in control? That's where I was. So I dare say is no matter how strong a person you are, there's some things that can break you. And people don't know that I fought this battle privately for 5 years, almost 6 years, since 2008. It's 2014. So those tears and this frustration come from a buildup of fighting this for so long. I mean, I'm only human. I'm far from weak. I'm a strong businesswoman, but I am human. And if that makes me weak, if that makes me not a good person, I'll be that. But I'm a Christian always and all day. And, it's insulting to even say, and I dare say most people wouldn't be crying over it because most people wouldn't have the courage to fight one of the biggest men in the entire entertainment industry, which has been my life passion since I was a little girl. That's another thing. When you're an entrepreneur, your business is your baby. When you steal from God, you're stealing God's creations. That's why if you watch these shows like, Tabitha's Takeover, where people are, she's helping people who are losing their salon, or the Dance Lady show where people have the dance studios that need help, or the restaurant, Save My Restaurant type shows. You see these people breaking down when they're at that crossroad of losing their businesses because they eat that business. They sacrifice for their business. They bleed for their business. I have sacrificed. I'm 46 years old and I have no children. I've given everything for my career because I felt this was my purpose and my passion. So when all that was in jeopardy, not just with this show, but me battling someone of that stature in this industry, knowing that could ruin my career, my tears are also for the fact that I had to say, you know what, even though I've worked on this career and in this industry over 25 years, I'm putting all of that on the line to fight for this one thing that I believe in, and that is my conviction. So that's where the tears and the frustration from, because it's like, would you put your job on the line to fight somebody over a name? Because that's what I'm doing when I went public with this, and when I even, just being in this position, is I sacrificed everything that I had worked for my whole life, not just because of this one show, but because of the repercussions it could have on my career, because I'm in the same industry. So if you can't absorb that, you don't get it, you're probably not an entrepreneur, and you probably don't have anything you're passionate about, because if you did, you would understand.
Okay, so Poprah, I want to ask you this question then. Do you, in terms of the industry blackballing people and kind of running over people, I mean, I've seen this happen 1,000 times. Is that something that that you feel has this case, has this really kept you from being able to move forward? And also, you talked about the media attention too. One of the things you and I discussed before we talked was, you said a lot of the media wants to talk about you, but they don't really want to talk to you. And I found that to be really interesting, and I think that's unfair, right? So what's that been like? I mean, do you feel that just now sort of going into an office and talking to people about anything is going to sort of cast, you're going to have a stigma on you because you chose to battle Tyler Perry?
Yes. I do think that there are a lot of people who follow, they're followers rather than leaders. They say they rep Christ, but when they choose between their own interest, they don't rep Christ, which you can't serve two gods. You got to decide. You're going to rep Christ. If you're not repping Christ, you're repping something else. There's no in between. So yes, in my progress through this experience or the progression of these events, I faced that. I faced sitting in network offices and just alone being honest enough to tell them about this situation, watch their demeanor change, watch their expression change without me saying any names. But I watch people, I'm very intuitive. And I would look at people and go, this is my show. And they would go, oh my God, that's a great show. I can't wait to work on that. Let's get started. I'm going to call my legal. And then I would say, I got to tell you one thing. This is what's going on with the name. I got a suit with Tyler Perry. You know what? We're going to get back to you. Or you know what? Even if they wouldn't say it, all of a sudden the enthusiasm was gone. Or the follow through never happened, And it's so ironic. I even went to ministers, big name ministers, who I thought if anybody would step up and help me, Pastor so-and-so would do it. He's an iconic person in this industry, and he knows this man. Maybe instead of us battling in court, he can go to him as a man of faith and say, brother, y'all got to stop this. You got to let this go. You're not doing the right thing. Let's sit down in good prayer and in God's presence and work this out. Some of those same people who said, you know what, that's horrible he did that, and I fear no man, and I will definitely never heard the many people who told me that they had my back. They would they turn up in movies with him. They found out they ended up on shows with him. They're in plays with him. So it's a shame, because I have to tell you this. It's a shame because when you get to a certain level of faith in God, you're in this world, but you're not of this world. And I do have to thank Tyler for this experience, because my faith in God has never been stronger. My relationship with God has never been stronger, because it challenged it to the point that I had to break down and really find Christ in a way that I never had before. And what's crazy is I don't care anymore. I don't care. I don't care about Hollywood. I do Jesus. I don't do politics. I'm not dependent on them giving me my opportunities. God has provided for me every step of the way, and I am definitely comfortable in relying and having the faith of a teeny little mustard seed that he will continue to work miracles, and open doors for me. And you know what? The people who are like me are being drawn to me. The people who have the faith and the I have and realize that the devil is getting all the shine he wants. He got all the music channels. He got the reality shows, all those agendas that are anti-Christ are out there and getting all the shine that they want. And if the people who claim to be of Christ do not stand up, you got to face God about that. I'm going to die for myself. You're going to die for yourself. And everybody going to have to stand in that position on Judgment Day on their own. So you got to decide who you serve. I want to tell you this too, that, even though some people may not want to do business with me or interact with me because of this. Honestly, if that's the kind of person you are and you can't respect me for speaking out for something that was taken from me, if you can't respect that, even though you think this man is a big celebrity, you still can't recognize right is right and wrong is wrong, I don't want to do business with you anyway. I don't want those people in my space. I don't even want them in my spirit. I just choose to ask God to please draw people, Lord, that are of like mind and of like faith and of like spirit. And it's coming. I've gotten phone calls, I've gotten emails, and I'm getting opportunities based on me having the courage to stand for Christ. And that's what I am with it.
And I want to ask you about that too. Okay, so we talked about the frustration of having the media talking about you, but when you want to tell your side of the story, they don't want to hear your side as much because the attention's on the big shot, right? And you're just kind of a prop in in the story in their minds, right? First, I want to ask you, how that feels to have all these people talking about you when you feel they're misrepresenting you. But then, two, is there a flip side to this? Is there a broad scenario where you see where professionally, not just personally and spiritually, but professionally, you've benefited from sort of having this battle with Tyler? Because I can only think about this because the closest thing I can think of Well, actually, two things that I can think of that I've gone through this that might be similar is a battle I had with Bill O'Reilly on Fox News and a battle that I've had with BET for a long time. On one side, you lose opportunities. There are people that won't work with you anymore. You got friends that are working with the person and they choose their loyalty and those things fall off. But then there's the other side where when O'Reilly took the time to attack me so viciously, I had a lot of people that really supported me because they couldn't stand O'Reilly either. Same thing with BET. I think that if you did a survey in the black community between who likes BET and who does not, the majority of black people are not fans of what BET has become over the years. Even if many of them don't have the courage to stand up to BET, we'll say that. And so I'm curious. Have you really found that there's maybe something that you can make here, where there's some lemons you can turn into lemonade, so that your career is actually better because you've engaged in this battle than it would have been had you not?
Yes. First of all, your first question about not having the media, engage with me or interview me, although they talk about me. I mean, I can't believe how big this story got. Number one, I didn't leak this story. I did a video in November expressing, which I thought you saw, where I expressed how distraught I was, and basically just a plea to Tyler Perry saying, please stop this, let's work this out. And I begged him to leave me alone because I felt bullied. And that's people don't think you can be bullied as an adult, but bullying is really just someone in a bigger position leveraging that to control someone else and unfairly and unjustifiably. And that's what happened. This shouldn't even be a case. It shouldn't even be a case because I should have been able to present my idea with him. And if he liked it enough to want it, he should have proposed to do business with me. That's what a man of integrity would do. Forget the Christian aspect for a second. A man of integrity and ethics would not have done this. So I shouldn't have been in a suit with him in the first place. Additionally, as far as, has it benefited me in other ways? I can tell you this. One, the first thing is he challenged my faith to the point that I feel like I can take anything, because I have cried, I've prayed, I want to die, now I want to live like I never wanted to live before. So thank you for that. The other part of it is in the last year, I've helped so many other people with their trademark, because people have to understand my mistake of not responding to those admissions, which I want to clarify. Tyler Perry, people go, Tyler Perry had the trademark to Jesus do. What would Jesus do? Tyler Perry never had a trademark to What Would Jesus Do. I had a trademark. He came and filed to have it canceled. People say that there was an opposition period where 2 years after I had it, he tried to oppose. That's not what happened. The opposition period is what happens before the mark is even registered. Once you apply, they decide whether or not your mark is in conflict with an existing mark. If it's not, they'll ask you for a specimen, and then they put public notice in a legal newspaper saying, hey, world, this person's trying to get this trademark. If you oppose, let us know. After that, if no one opposes in 30 days, then your mark moves forward with registration. So people saying 2 years later he opposed it, that's wrong. So that's the downside of the media not talking to the people who are actually involved, because here, this one Hollywood reporter, which I don't even know why he wrote the story, what inspired him, whether Tyler's people had him write it or he was just following the case. But this is where this all kicked off. And even though I appreciate this person for doing it, God works in mysterious ways. I was shocked. Somebody called me and said, are you okay? And I said, why? They were like, are you sitting down? Like, is anything bad happening in your life? And I was like, no, I'm okay. And then they were like, so you don't know? And I was like, no, what? And I thought, well, this person doesn't know family members or anything. So what could they know that they think would be so devastating to me that they're asking me, am I driving or am I sitting down? I'm like, what? And that's when they told me, I saw in the paper or saw online that Tyler Perry got your trademark. And it just goes to show you that people knew how important this was to me and how sacred this was to me, to think that it would be so devastating to me when I lost the mark, that it would be something, like when you find out someone died, you know what I mean? How my friends and associates know this has affected my life. But the good thing that has come out of it is, even with this misinformation, it's created a dialogue about Christ, And it's also created a dialogue about trademarks and copyrights and legal protections and intellectual property. So I created a business called yourtrademarkguru.com. And based on me studying, which a lot of the attorneys who have worked with me told me I should have been an attorney. And I wish I could snap my fingers and have a law degree, because I would be. I should have went to law school and I didn't. But and I thought about even still doing and going online and getting into intellectual property law or business law. But yeah, so this company I created, yourtrademarkguru.com, has positioned me to help other entrepreneurs. And it's different from those online Legal Zooms and those other companies that people think, you know, you just type your info on a template and then get your stuff registered. Because when you're an entrepreneur, there's so many specifics and technicalities in this trademark process that if you have one single letter, sometimes that is a mistake on your application, that can ruin your chances of getting it, or get your application thrown out, or get your application rejected. One thing people don't know about this case, there are two different types of applications when you file for a trademark. One is under 1A, which is use in commerce. That means, let's say if you had a hot dog stand, I'm selling hot dogs right now. This is my name, Kim's Hot Dogs. So I want this trademark to protect my name. The other one is called intent to use, which means I'm intending to open up that hot dog stand. This is the name I want to use, but I haven't used it yet. This is what Tyler Perry challenged against me, was saying I wasn't using my trademark and I had not used it in commerce. And that's another issue that needs to be brought up in this case, because use in commerce means that you've done business transactions within the United States commerce in regards to this business. Well, since I got a deal with the Word Network, since I did start soliciting for sponsors and advertisers and had done casting and even shot a pilot, all these things for this show, I was transacting in regards to this show. But when I filed my application, some of the things in the trademark manual are very vague, and they're not industry specific, but every industry is different. And so him saying I wasn't using my mark for a TV show, although I was in production has various phases. There's a pre-production period where you're looking for a distributor, you're getting locations, you're getting your sets together and doing your your crewing and your casting. There's the production period where actually you're shooting the show, and then there's the post-production period where editing and composing and color correcting and all these different phases. So to say that I wasn't in production on a reality show, even though I was in the pre-production phase and had moved into some of the elements of production, was absurd. And that begs the question, like when you say a woman doesn't have a baby, even though she's 6 or 7 months pregnant. But I bet you if you killed her, you'd be prosecuted for 2 murders. But she never gave labor, right? So maybe I never gave labor to my show because it wasn't on the air, but I certainly was with show, as a woman would be with child. So the difference between 2 letters, a 1A and a 1B, also factored into this case. And this is the other thing I want people to know. Don't trust the trademark office. They are not your friend. They're not your lawyers, even though they say, here's call our customer service and we'll guide you through this and all that. They're not going to do that. They don't give you legal advice, and they don't stand accountable for their actions. Because when I put in my application, since I didn't know if my website showing I was casting and marketing and promoting, soliciting for support and help with the show, I didn't know if that was enough to be considered in use, right? So I put in my application, this is all public record, you can double check everything I'm saying, I keep it 100. I put in my application, if my specimen from my website is not enough to constitute use of this mark, I hereby amend my application to 1B, intent to use, and then I signed it digitally, which means you put a slash in front of your name and a slash behind your name. The trademark attorney, the examining attorney who had my case, which everybody who applies, your application will be assigned to an attorney within the trademark office. He didn't do like all the other people do, like if you send in a specimen and they go, no, that's not good enough, send something else or you can't get this mark. Instead of him honoring my request that if it wasn't enough to amend my application, which meant if it was under intent to use, Tyler Perry couldn't have came after me because my mark wouldn't have been registered. It would have been a pending registration. So you can't take something from me that wouldn't have had yet, but I still would have been in first position to get it. And I wouldn't have been able to file extensions every 6 months up to like 3 or 4 years. So I would have had 3 years to secure the deal for this show without his interference, which ran people off, and know that I had to meet that deadline in order to get the registration. But he would have never been able to take it. Just like right now, I put in the application. People say the "What Would Jesus Do" bracelets. Does that mean I can't say "What would Jesus do" anymore? That's totally irrelevant. Trademarks fall into categories of use. That's why you can see the same restaurant with the same name as a store, same name as a website, and it may not be the same people or the same any connection between them, because every use, trademarks can be re-trademarked for every use of the same thing. So whereas I had "What Would Jesus Do" under the entertainment category, that's what blocked Tyler Perry from getting it, because the purpose of a trademark is to to avoid confusion in the marketplace where people think your business is my business. And so if they trust you, they automatically do business with me. So it's confusing to the people in the marketplace. So that's why he couldn't get it, because we were in the same category. But those bracelets and apparel and all these other things, that's a totally different use of the name. So guess who's in line to get the name for "What Would Jesus Do" for all the other things? All the other things. Hats, t-shirts, baby diapers, ties, jackets, you name it. Me. You know why? Because I wanted to be able to sell merchandise to continue my path in spreading God's word with the show. And I knew that protecting only the name for entertainment wouldn't give me the right to put it on any type of merchandise. So even though he took my mark for me for the TV show, he can do a concert, he can do a show, but he better not put that name on a t-shirt, better not put it on a hat, because then he's going to have to pay me. And I'm going to be able to use his funds to spread the word of God the right way and get the message out there. So that's what I plan to do also, is move forward with my registration on the apparel and get the other Christians who want to support me, because I still need funding to do this show. And that's the only way I can do it, because I haven't found anybody who wants to step up and just do it because they believe in putting a show on TV that spreads God's word the right way, and it is truly of faith and really about the right message. Because you can watch these other faith-based reality shows on TV, and not all of them have the right agenda, and you guys know what I'm talking about. Some of these shows are just to make Christians look bad. That's another reason why I had so much conviction, because I didn't want to taint the message and the premise of this show with this case, by it appearing to be a battle between people who say that they love God, But like I said, they put it out there. So yourtrademarkguru.com is my way of helping other entrepreneurs and having them work with me and my team one-on-one, where we understand your passion about your business. I've had people who contacted me who lost their trademarks, or they wanted a name and they found out somebody else already had it, or they went online and somebody else was using the same name in Miami and they're in DC, and they ask us to trademark it for them, and we can't get it because someone else already has that name. So they've been operating on a name that they have no legal right to use for years and years. And the same way you saw me crying in those videos and crying today, I've had so many people sitting on my phone for hours crying their eyes out because something that they invested their blood, sweat, and tears, or thought it was their legacy that they could pass on to their kids, they don't even have the right to use it. If you're an entrepreneur and you listening to this, ask yourself, what would you do if your business was really successful and then you found out you couldn't even use your own name? Or you ended up in a lawsuit because someone sued you because they said the name you're using is not yours. So before you guys keep jumping online, buying these domain names and getting LLCs and starting these businesses, not even knowing if the name that you want to use is even available for you to use, you need to have somebody help you. You don't have to have my company help you, but you need to have somebody help you. And also, we try to make it affordable for people who can't afford the attorneys for $450 an hour and $500 an hour. We do a flat rate. We give people payment plans. We don't check their credit. We just try to work with people, because I swear to you, I never want anybody to ever go through what I have gone through in this case and have their intellectual property and their brand just ripped out of their hands and taken from them because they didn't have the legal protection in place or the team to guide them through the process. And that's where I failed.
All right. Well, I can say that today we've officially had the longest interview I've ever done. Most of them are 10 to 15 minutes, but you had a lot to say and you gave a lot of good information and you told the other side of the story, so we achieved our goal. And so I want to tell everybody this is Miss Kim Kearney, but the name that she uses for entertainment is Poprah. And her website is yourtrademarkguru.com. Did you have another website, Kim? I'm sorry, Poprah. Poprah that you wanted people to go to?
No, they can just use that one. Of course, you can follow me personally at Poprah on Twitter or Poprah Host Actress on Facebook, on Instagram. I'm the real Poprah. But for yourtrademarkguru.com, pass that on and protect yourselves against this type of situation, guys. Please let us help you. And if you don't call us, get somebody to help you. Protect your business, protect your brand, and protect your name, because sometimes that's all you got.
Absolutely. Well, I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time, Poprah. I really appreciate it. And, I wish you the very best in your career. It sounds to me like you have really turned those lemons into lemonade. It also sounds like you really know a lot about the business of entertainment, which I think is really important. We have a lot of people who know about the entertainment of entertainment, but they don't know that the real money and the real deals and the real power happens on the business side. And so I appreciate you sharing this knowledge with all the readers of Your Black World. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to do so. I really appreciate you.
Absolutely. And everybody, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins. Thank you so much for checking us out. And remember, when you go out here and you go into business, understand that it can be a nasty battlefield. Go in with full information. Education is the key to overcoming a lot of these obstacles, and you can never forget about the power of faith. So until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed to be educated. We are gone. Peace.